Hello, everyone. Armchair updates breaking down week 16 in the ABL. Have some fun stuff to talk about, some playoff related stuff, some big trades that went down, dumpy trades, non dumpy trades. Really, two teams that I would like to focus on. Probably wouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, but the Phillies and the Marlins. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about mostly the Phillies because I think the Phillies moves are more interesting than the Marlins. The Marlins the Marlins dumped. Like the Marlins they dumped. The Phillies they dumped on the square. Like they got worse now. But well, I guess I didn't want to start with this shit, but whatever. So last week, I don't want to say I was the catalyst or anything like that, but last week when I did my, here's how I felt about trading Lou Bob and why that trade that some might have saw as a dump that I don't think it was a dump. And my reasoning behind that is largely similar reasoning that Adam and Tony have given for their moves. Now, I think that even in the Rockies, even in the best case scenario, with a healthy Lou Bob and the Diamondbacks, still letting Gallen, or at the time of our playoffs, letting Gallen go deeper into games, even though they're clearly out of it. So why would they not handle him with kid gloves the rest of the year? Once Strass went down for me, I saw that as being the nail in my coffin for being able to try to compete in the first round of the playoffs. I still want to get there, like I said, and we're gonna get to that also. The Rockies and Mets stuff going on is actually really fun. It's probably more fun for me because I am the Rockies, but that's fun stuff. But anyway, I felt like I could get rid of a big name, a big piece, that the highest priced piece left on my team, but still get pieces back to help me enough this year, like Willie Adames and like the starting pitching that I got, to where it couldn't be or shouldn't be construed as a dump because I was clearly still playing for the playoffs. But like I said in the pod last week, once I were to make the playoffs, assuming that it was me and not the Mets, I had no illusions about beating who it was that I was going to face. I was going to get stomped. And I know Joe likes to say that it's a 50-50, and it is, in the sense that, yes, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose, but it's not a coin flip. No Vegas line is going to make those matchups even money. Dodgers Rockies is not an even money matchup. Pirates Rockies, Cardinals Rockies, Cubs Rockies are not even money matchups. All of those teams would be starting as heavy favorites, especially in a 1 week playoff matchup. Now, granted, yeah, it's 1 week. Anything can happen. Anything can happen to those guys too. But there's a reason, and I know it was said in the Discord by somebody, there's a reason that those teams are scoring on a regular week mid to high 300s, 400 points every week. And the Rockies have yet to score over 300 a single week. So you can't say that's a coin flip matchup. I knew it wasn't going to be. I wanted to get value for my pieces. Adam pretty much had the same line of reasoning, and I wanted to try to get him on here, and maybe he and I could break down his thought process a little easier than me just trying to take words from a discussion that I had with him. But it was kind of the same thought, that he knew that he was good enough to make it. He was going to make it, but that and this is his words, that he had one of the lowest point totals of almost all the playoff teams, probably my Rockies being the other one, and that he thought he had no chance to win at all, and that his team, because of these moves, is already in a better place for the 2022 season. And I don't necessarily disagree, because the Phillies ended up trading unkeepable contracts. I guess Soto is really the only one that is definitively not keepable. But Turner, he knew he wasn't keeping. Biggio, he doesn't like. And Jesus, nobody that drafted Biggio in any league this year, auction, redraft, anything, nobody's happy with him for what you're getting out of him. And he's 36. With inflation, he's going to be 38. He's going to be on a 1 year. He's going to be still close to $40 for the production he's given you. You can't keep it. He turned those three guys and a 23 first basically into Ryan McMahon, and then a couple of high-end prospects in Toglia and Jason Dominguez, like one of I'm not a prospect. I'm not a prospect analyst or whatever, but we know he's a super high-level prospect. He's a little more expensive than your $1 Jarren Duran's or whatever, but he doesn't count against Adams' cap at all next year or even the year after or whatever if he doesn't get called up. So I like those moves. $9 now. So, if he extends him for X amount of years, he is still a well under $20 Ryan McMahon in Coors Field. You're going to be the heart of that Rocky lineup that maybe in the next few years starts to see maybe some of their prospects, some of those bat prospects like Toglia and Veen and those guys pay off. Yeah, they're going to be getting rid of Story, but that just cements McMahon in the middle of that lineup at a very nice price, multi-position eligibility. I think Adam did a good job in trading the pieces that he wanted to get value for. It's a tougher spot. If I was the Phillies, it would have been tougher for me to move on those guys now. I would probably, because I try to be risk averse. I'm so the fear of missing out, the FOMO stuff. If you're an amateur stock trader or whatever, people FOMO and the stocks and stuff because they don't want to miss out on the stock that spikes or whatever it is. Well, I don't want to. If I was the Phillies, I love the pieces he got back, but if that was my team, I definitely would have dealt these guys, but I probably would have done it a little later in the year. Let's see if bad luck doesn't befall the Pirates or the Dodgers or the Cubs and make it easier for me to win. You don't want to root for an injury, but that's pretty much what rooting for slump, rooting for injury, rooting for whatever it is, rooting for a reason that makes it look like I could beat these guys in the playoffs. Now, if you were reading the Discord the other day at the end of this last week, when I was saying, just for what it's worth, this week the Rockies would have beat the Padres, and this was week 16. The Rockies would have beat the Padres, the Cardinals, the Mariners, the Phillies. So I would have beat a lot of potential playoff teams. That stuff happens. I had a good week and still only scored about 250 points. When you're talking about beating the Dodgers or the Pirates or the Tigers or the White Sox, my loss in week 16 was to the White Sox. I had what I thought was a great week. I got outscored by 100 points by the White Sox. It wasn't even close. I had one of my best weeks of the season, and I wasn't even close to the White Sox. So I think that's kind of the way that Adam and Tony, and myself, even though I'm in a different dumpy position than these guys are. If Dwight overtakes me in the next 2 weeks or whatever, and I will dump, Gallen and maybe some of these other guys, Gurriel or maybe Joey Gallo. I don't know. It depends. But all I'm trying to do is make it. I know for sure I'm losing. I don't know for sure that Adam was losing against who he came up against in the first round. You can't say for sure because he has a very good team. He's a top 5 hitting team overall. Well, not anymore. But I don't know. I'm just saying I get why the Phillies did what they did. I think the Marlins moves are a little more perplexing to me just for some of the return. Like, Tony, you want to restock your farm but like you dealt 3 cheap guys that have performed in the big leagues for a second and a fifth round pick. You traded, Moore, Peralta, and Mercado for a second and a fifth round pick. What are you hoping those picks turn into? You're probably hoping they turn into a guy like Dylan Moore, a Swiss Army knife kind of guy on a it'll be a little bit cheaper salary. It's not like he's super expensive, but you'd hope he turns a fifth round pick turns into Oscar Mercado. You'd be thrilled if a fifth round pick comes up and gets even a platoon outfield job on a shitty team. I mean, that's a successful fifth round pick. I just I'm not saying all the Marlins moves or anything. Some of them are fine. There's a couple of them that I didn't really get, and that was one of them. Dealing 3 established big leaguers for picks that you don't know how they're going to turn out, and a fifth round pick is really throwing a dart at something that you're hoping years down the line. Keep Mercado for $1. I mean, he wasn't a high level prospect, but I mean, he was a Cardinal, I think, a Cardinal hand traded to the Indians. Looked like he was going to be, a year or two ago, looked like he was going to be a 15-15 guy in the big leagues, but maybe he just needs to refine it. I don't know. And I feel stupid, critiquing somebody's move like that. That's just a move that stood out to me as curious, because I'm just wondering what you hope those picks are going to turn into, if not similar type of players like the guys you traded them for. I know you want to restock the farm. I get that part of it, but that's besides the point anyway. So that's my piece on the Philly dump and the Miami dump. At first I criticized Tony for being, what are you doing? You're fighting for your division, but you're announcing, he made the dump proclamation anyway. And then, Adams more came from, he was trying to deal Soto, and then, it was a trade that was big enough to, I guess, warrant a dump proclamation. So he makes the same deal anyway. So I saw Philly as less of a dump, and then I saw the whole deal because I thought it was just Soto. Then I saw the whole deal was Turner and Soto and Biggio. If that was the only deal, that would be more cause for concern, I guess. But the other deal he made in getting Dominguez and I think Casey Martin, but he landed some very high level specs and a nice young guy on a nice team friendly contract. If I'm picking the two in the NL East, I like the moves the Phillies made more than I like the moves the Marlins made. And one of the Marlins moves made was with me. I've made a lot of moves with Tony this year. But this dump, I feel like you're too eager to make deals, Tony. I know you love trading. This is a guy that does not want to sit on his hands. He wants to make these deals. But I feel like sometimes if you would just wait a day or a week, you could end up getting better return on some of this stuff. I think you're just a little too quick to pull the trigger for the sake of making deals. But like I and a lot of other guys in the league have said, I've stuck my foot in my mouth so many times criticizing the Marlins because they keep proving everybody wrong. What am I doing now criticizing his deals? I probably shouldn't. So that's just my thoughts on the Philly dump and the Miami dump. Maybe the other ones happened so early in the year. I guess they didn't. Well, and the other ones weren't playoff teams. These guys are both playoff teams. That's the interesting thing. These guys are both still fighting for the division. I think Philly probably has a leg up now because he did keep some of his team intact. So, yeah, he's gonna get a nice thing to hang in the ballpark or whatever. But I think kind of like me, those guys saw the writing on the wall and that there is some obvious separation between the upper echelon of teams and then just being a playoff team, especially when you're talking about the Rockies or the Mets, who are going to be a sub 500 playoff team, more likely than not. As for the rest of week 16, let's get into it a little bit. Your undefeateds And now we're back to looking normal for the first few at least, and then it's gonna get a little interesting. You have the Dodgers, the Pirates, the White Sox, the Angels, the Twins, the A's, all going 3-0, and then the Mets, the Mets going 2-0. We'll get to the A's and the Mets in a minute. Let me run down the rest. So the 2-1 teams, the Tigers picking up a loss. Tigers don't pick up a loss very often. The Cubs go 2-1. The Red Sox, the Padres pick up a loss. So Dodgers able to gain a full game on the Pods. The Giants go 2-1. First time in a while, I feel like we've seen the Giants with a winning week. The Phillies go 2-1. The Marlins go 2-1. The Mariners go 2-2. There's quite a few teams actually that split the week. Usually it's only like one or two. Mariners go 2-2. Blue Jays go 1-1. Rays go 1-1. Rockies go 1-1, so lose a game back on the Mets. And Rangers go 1-1. Nice to see the Rangers splitting the week. The Cardinals drop 2. First time we've seen that in a while. The Yankees drop 2, which comes into play with how good the A's have been recently. We'll get to that. The Astros go 0-4. Another really tough week for the Astros. This week, not as like he just looks like he faced some tough teams. 13-3. Last week, it was like he had scored almost as much as he allowed and still dropped, I think, the whole week. This week, he really got whooped and dropped the whole week. But still, an 0-4 week is tough no matter how you slice it. The Brewers, the D-backs, the Braves, and the Nats and the Clevelands all go 0-3. And then the now we know for sure ownerless Orioles, the Reds, and the Royals, who are not ownerless, go 0-2. So I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say if anybody's watching this that hasn't read the Discord, we did lose Randy. We didn't lose him. He's not dead, but he has come into a new job that's going to command a lot more of his time, and he did not ask for a refund. In fact, he feels, I guess, bad about having to leave or whatever. But we did lose him, and we are, as you probably have seen, Duke taking applications for new owners. We got a couple guys that we're how do you want to say, vetting or doing due diligence on or whatever already. So and as stated, and Duke was 100% correct, we hit the lottery with Zach and Josh, like a couple incredible owners that have really not turned around sinking ships, but made them sink less, started bailing out the sinking ships. And we're hoping to get another guy like that. Royals Mark is around. His injuries and everything, and the latest DeGrom news, he's coasting. He knows he's not going anywhere, but he is around. He's still in the league, so he just hadn't bothered setting the lineup in a while because a lot of days there's not a whole lot for him to set on that team, which is rough. I mean, with a lot of us have been there. There's a lot of teams right now that aren't really. That are having a lot of trouble fielding an everyday lineup. For a while I was one of them because of injuries. I was throwing injured guys in there or minor league eligible guys in there. Sometimes that's what you have to do. Those of us that did not go the depth route, we have been feeling that pain for a while, and it's only getting worse for some of us. For some of us, getting a little better, but for a lot of guys, still having trouble putting together a full lineup. Let us get to so as I said in the Discord, if you saw, I'm done doing the biggest margins of victory, because all it's turning into every week is whoever's playing these rebuilding teams, whoever's playing the Clevelands or the Texases or the Cincinnatis or the Braves or whoever it is that's not having the Washingtons, whoever's not having a good week or who's rebuilding and didn't get any starts, or there's no data, there's nothing to be learned from that. It's just, I kind of just felt like it was just kicking guys while they were down, even if it wasn't. I don't think there's anything to gain from it. None of these guys feel good. It's not like the Dodgers are getting at me and it's like, oh, look at how I beat the shit out of the Nationals. Like, everybody already knows that. So what's the point in pointing it out? But I am going to continue to do the small margins because that is fun. And this week there were 7, as you can see in the notes, 7 games decided by fewer than 20 points. I guess maybe that's what I'm going to maybe moving forward. Maybe I'll kind of land on that as a close, fewer than 20 points, less than 20 points as a close win. Number 1 this week, San Francisco showing up at the top and the bottom of this list on opposite sides. Also, San Francisco over the Yankees, 4.66 points. So that loss for Gary, let's deviate a little bit because I'm just going to bounce around. So the A's and Yankees are now with the last 2 weeks. Oakland has went 1-1 in week 15 and then 3-0 in week 16. So they're 4-1 the last 2 weeks, with the Yankees going 2-4. And that has allowed Oakland to open a door, just a crack that was closing in front of them for that final spot in the American League. It's not decided yet, just like it's not in the NL. And so I put in the notes that, the Rockies and Mets have an epic battle for the AC because, man, the last couple of weeks, Dwight and I really have been slugging it out. But the A's and Yankees also have a somewhat epic battle forming for the 8 seed. I know 2 weeks ago I said it looks like it's probably going to be the Yankees. Well, in the last 2 weeks, Oakland's kind of come out of nowhere. And I know David had said, it's amazing what can happen when you can feel the full lineup and it's not all injured. So we're seeing Oakland kind of come screaming back. And if the next couple weeks go like the last couple weeks have gone, I think we could very easily see Oakland kind of out of nowhere. A team that was probably written off like with the Ozuna news, and he's had some other, big injuries. But I think everybody, it's not like they're sitting there actively writing off Oakland, but just I don't think anybody saw Oakland kind of sneaking up after the break like this and really knocking at the door. Whereas Dwight and I, the last 2 weeks, week 15, the Rockies went 3-0, but the Mets managed to go 2-1. So only gained a game. And then this last week, week 16, Colorado went 1-1, and the Mets faced Philadelphia and Seattle. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I got Cleveland and the White Sox. I'm probably going to go 1-1, but at least the Mets should probably go 0-2, right? Phillies are going to beat them, and the Mariners, of course, are going to beat them. Dwight refuses to go down. He will not go quietly into the dark night. He was number 3 in hitting on the week. The Mets had the best hitting week they've had all year, 215 points. And the last 2 weeks, the Mets and the Rockies have both went 4-1. I have not gained a single game on Dwight since my declaration of, well, if it becomes clear that it's either going to be him or me, I can start moving some of these other pieces like the Gallons and the Gallos or whoever it might be. And nobody has gained a single inch of ground on the other one in the 2.5 weeks it's been because week 15 was week and a half scoring period or whatever. So quite the fight. Maybe it's not as fun for everybody else, but I bet you it's fun for Dwight. It's really fun for me, if not frustrating, because I just want to sew up that 8 seed and kind of move on with my plans, my plans going forward of how I want to build this team, at least for next year. But he will not go away. And Gary is not overly vocal on the Discord. He's around sometimes, but I'm sure he's looking behind him at Oakland coming up. And it's kind of, this mirrors what's happened in real life. Oakland and the Yankees, Oakland being the scrappy wild card type team, kind of coming out of nowhere and being darlings that everybody wants to root for, but they just clearly, even since the Hudson Mulder Zito days, have never been able to really do it. Different than a Moneyball kind of team, but still really fun to watch as this shakes down as we get closer to the playoffs. All right, so that's the sidetrack there, bringing up the Yankees. So that was a very tough loss by the Yankees to lose another game on Oakland by fewer than 5 points. Seattle, Milwaukee, your number 2, slim margin. Seattle over Milwaukee by 7 points. St. Louis over San Diego by 8. So San Diego takes the loss, loses a game to the Dodgers, did it by only 8 points. The Mets over Seattle was only 10 points. So if it comes down, and I think I've said this before, about a week past, maybe Dwight showing up on that small margin win list. If it comes down to me losing if it comes down to me losing the playoff spot by one game, Dwight, and it was a 10-point win over the Mariners. Oh man. I mean, that'll be really cool, but that'll be really frustrating as well. I wanted to get my fist on there so I could, show the anger that I would feel. The Cubs over Tampa Bay by 10.5 is number 5. Number 6, the White Sox over Detroit. I know these guys have shown up on these. The White Sox and Detroit always beating up on each other. So Detroit finally takes a loss. It is to the division rival White Sox by 17.5 points. And then San Diego over San Francisco, 18.17 points. So San Francisco shows up twice on the list on both ends. San Diego shows up twice on the list on both ends. Seattle shows up twice on the list on both sides. I don't know if that's all that interesting, but it's interesting to me. We're going to do high scores for the week. Your straight up high score for the week. The Dodgers, 391 points. So clearly you want to be, up in this area if you're hoping to have a great week. And Toronto only went 1-1. 5th highest scoring team of the week, only went 1-1. Detroit, right there, lost the game. The White Sox, 350. So I'm going backwards. Detroit, 391. Pittsburgh, 378.5. The White Sox, 350.667. Detroit, 333.167 and still lost a game. Toronto, 331.167 and still lost a game. It's tough. Head-to-head scheduling is tough. Now look at this. Point per game, week 16. I forgot my underlines on here. Point per game, week 16, you're going to see a very interesting name in the number 1 spot. It's the Washington Nationals at 6.1 points per game. It's the highest we've seen. And yes, it was only in 20 games. But man, they made those 20 games count. The first we've seen yet this year of a team over 6 in the weekly point per game. And I think maybe the first time at all we've seen the Nationals. So kudos to the Nats getting your name up on that list. It's like the team gets like a $500 bonus or something when they show up on these lists. So advertising bonus. So good for the Nats. Get some Subway sandwiches for the clubhouse. Dodgers, number 2, 5.21 points per game in 75 games. That's a little more like it. Pittsburgh, 5.05 in 75 games. The White Sox at number 4, 4.33 points per game in 81 games. And Minnesota, tied for number 4, number 5, 4.33 in 72 games. So 2 teams over 5, and it's, not surprising. Well, 3 teams over 5, but the 2 teams that are really over 5. Not surprising, the Dodgers and the Pirates, 2 guys that are shame they're not going to be able to face each other in the World Series, but we plan on seeing them make deep playoff runs. They are always at the top of these lists. You're hitting in week 16. Pittsburgh cracking back into the top 5, taking the 1 spot, 238 points. The Dodgers at 2, 217. The Mets, number 3. Hello, Mets, 215 points, number 3 in hitting. Number 4, the Jays. Usually you think the Jays are more of a pitching team, 212 points. And Detroit at number 5. He was number 5 last week in hitting. He's number 5 this week, 206 hitting points. Detroit kind of always in there, kind of always on both sides. He's just fucking John put together a great team for now and later. And I didn't mention the trade, the Soto, Biggio, Turner, those all went to Detroit. So, I mean, we really have – there's only a handful of teams that are buyers right now, and it's become an arms race. This is like, the 60s when suddenly France has the bomb now, and you're getting, then India gets it or whatever, Pakistan, whoever the hell else got it. Everybody's incrementally acquiring more and more firepower, except for maybe what country can I liken the Marlins and Phillies to? The Phillies are like the French, after the Germans stuck it to them. They're like, okay, we're still the French, like we're still a proud people. We're still hanging in there, but we're putting up the flag for all intents and purposes. Like you guys can come in and hang out, but we're still French. Like we're still making butter and cheese and stuff. And the Marlins, you're like, who did the British beat in the Falklands War? Was it Argentina? Lasted like 3 days, and the Argentinians are still pissed about it to this day. I think maybe that's what that was. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, Tony's Argentina. That's what I'm sticking with. Pitching for Week 16. White Sox, number 1, 178.667 points. The Dodgers, number 2, 174. And then a little bit of a gap to the Cubs at number 3, 141.167 points. Pittsburgh at number 4, 140.5. And hello, a new face in the pitching. The Colorado Rockies, top 5 in pitching. My God, the Mets top 5 in hitting, the Rockies top 5 in pitching the same week. These two teams are they really don't want to lay down and give the other guy that 8 playoff spot. Dwight is not giving it to me. I'm not giving it to Dwight. I think pretty sure I know it's the first time the Mets have been hitting. I'm almost certain it's the first time the Rockies have been in the pitching. I barely squeaked in. I think it was like 1/10 of a point over the guy that was number 6. But I will admit to getting a smile on my face when I saw that I was top 5 in something for the week, and it wasn't something bad, So, yeah, I think that's going to be really fun. Yeah, at least for Dwight and I and whoever it might be that faces us in the first round. Whoever puts the boots to us in the first round. But going down, scratching and biting. Point per game on the season, still the Dodgers at 4.35. Number 2, still the Pittsburghs at 4.34. Number 3, still the White Sox, 4.26. And Detroit and St. Louis flip-flop. Detroit, number 4. Well, they're both 4.19, but for whatever reason, Trax had them in that order, Detroit and then St. Louis. And Jeff has said, it's been a bit of a downward trend. If you were to watch the last 3 pods or whatever, you would see St. Louis falling down this point per game list week after week. He's getting incrementally. It's just the guys are slumping at the wrong time. Guys are slumping at the same time, which is the wrong time. And St. Louis is, while still playing good, they're slipping a little bit. They are. St. Louis didn't show up in the hitting or pitching sides this week. And they didn't last week. If you look at the previous's, Jeff's right. He's been slipping a little bit. The hitting and pitching on the season, not a whole lot of movement. St. Louis out of the top 5 in hitting. Enter the Chicago Cubs at number 5, 2,867 points, kicking St. Louis out of there. He's not far behind, but he is out. The rest of the top 4 remain unchanged. The pitching, a little bit of shuffling. The White Sox remain number 1. Toronto slips to 3 with the Dodgers taking 2. Seattle down to 4, and St. Louis keeping it real at number 5. So overall, I don't think there's anything in the notes that I didn't get to. Mets crap, top 5 hitting. Rockies top 5 pitching. It's getting interesting for some of us. It's getting to the dog days for the other guys. The aforementioned, the Royals, the teams that know they're rebuilding. Toronto, Mark had mentioned. I'm not sure if we've seen Cleveland Mark in a while, but Cleveland Mark knows. Not that he's not checked because he's on there every day. He's in the football league. I'm actually in a hockey league with him. He's on there every day. He doesn't have much of a lineup to go in there and set. Some of these guys don't. Kansas City Mark, Cleveland Mark, Texas Sam is trying to swing some deals. Trying to get himself ready for having a bunch of money to spend in the auction, to butt heads with Tony and some of these other guys are going to have a lot of money to spend. Washington going to have some money. So yeah, for some of it's a 30-team league. For some of the guys, we are in the dog days where it's in the leagues that you're out of. it's stopped being fun. It's now a grind. It's now a serious grind. It's not necessarily fun anymore. And as I mentioned earlier, there's only a handful of teams that are buying, so it's kind of tough to maybe shop like you might want to when are the Rockies buying right now? I made a trade just a little bit ago, but I'm not buying anybody that I don't think I'm going to be able to keep. When somebody comes to me with a high dollar player and it's like, yeah, like he would look great on my team and he probably would help in the playoffs, but he's not going to help me beat anybody. And then I'm out that guy and who I dealt for him. At least that's how I'm looking at it. I'm trying to learn from the teams that are super successful, at least in this first year. And those guys do not have $50, $60, $70 contracts. And the ones that they do, like the Tigers just took on Trey Turner and Juan Soto, these are strictly rental. These guys are buying tanks and missiles that they know they're going to expend and not get back. I'm more like looking for fortresses and gun emplacements that can be there and be a backbone to the future. I fucked up the auction. I thought I was going to be able to trade my way out of it, and I kept getting smacked with injuries. And man, you can't do that. You can't succeed both making mistakes and catching some bad luck. Toronto Mark, the Blue Jays have caused some bad luck, but he didn't make a ton of mistakes in the auction. He's been able to absorb his bad luck, and he's still on top of his division. He's guaranteed going to the playoffs, and he's a team that has a chance to win in the playoffs. So you can, the Twins have absorbed injuries, put together a good team. Do I want to? So this is where I'm at now in my life. I have to meet my wife outside to go do a thing so that the dog doesn't get depressed that she comes back inside and then we both leave, because that would hurt his feelings. So I need to wrap up. I don't even remember what I was saying now. Damn it. Oh yeah. So it's August. It's that time in fantasy baseball. It's not just an ABL thing. I've got roto leagues that I'm sitting in 10th, 11th place that I don't feel like checking into every day, that I don't feel like fucking with. But I do still try. But that's different than a dynasty league where you're throwing a bunch of minor leaguers and shit in there. Like I get it. It sucks to lose Randy. Hopefully this does not be. I don't think it's going to become a regular occurrence. I was kind of surprised to know that we lost him. It had been brought to our attention that it had been a while since he had logged into even Fantrax, and the Orioles weren't a terrible team. They weren't a Giants situation, like a Rodgers situation, to where he just knew he fucked up the auction and then basically blew off the team, for most of the year. What it sounds like, he just this new job is going to keep him busier than what allows, for a fairly deep, complex dynasty league is and he wants somebody to be able to take it over that's going to be able to actually run the team. So that's week 16. Tony, Adam, of course, no offense. I wasn't trying to rip you guys apart or anything. Like, I'm just saying the stuff as I see it. I know nobody cares or probably watches this long anyway. So, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe and like button. Get the, there's a bell. There's a notification thing on YouTube now, and I guess that supposedly helps somehow. I think that helps you show up in like other people's shit that aren't necessarily looking for you. But if they were to look for something fantasy related or whatever, if more guys have the notification bell on, which I think just automatically tells you whenever this channel has put, I don't care if you do it or not, but if you do, that'd be cool. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Week 16, getting closer to the playoffs. Catch you guys later.